What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Taking the Pin. And today we are giving our full review of SummerSlam. Of course, in the past weekend, we've had the two-night PLE, the first ever of its kind for SummerSlam, and apparently may not be the only one getting a two-night revamp in the near future based on reports. We won't get into that now, though, because I can see Bragster is boiling with fury. Anyway, with that being said, we're going to be giving our thoughts on SummerSlam, of course, covering all of the big topics, and yeah, just giving our overall thoughts and views on things that happened on Saturday and Sunday. So, without further ado, Bragster, as always, you join me today for some wrestling gib-gab, or whatever you want to call it. Jibber-jabber, crisscross, swish-wash, whatever you want to call it. So, Bragster, give me your thoughts on SummerSlam, and what did you think of the whole event, both night one and night two?
Really enjoyable. Really, like, from start to finish, there wasn't many dull moments, if any, to be honest. I think every match had something about it that I really enjoyed. And yeah, I really enjoyed both main events a lot, which I know we'll go in more detail of later. But I really enjoyed both main events. I really enjoyed the fact that it sort of felt like every division got a showing. You know, it doesn't mean that every title was on the line, because it never means that. But it means that you had, you know, the women's mid-card division was represented. The tag team divisions were represented in both the men's and the women's. You know, you have your storyline matches, you know, the ones that don't have titles on the line. You had your celebrity match, you know, you had all these different things. So there was a lot of variety, a lot to enjoy. The only thing I would really say, maybe negative wise, and this only comes really from watching both nights, I would have liked a couple of the hardcore matches on night two to be on night one. I feel like night two was a little bit too heavy on the hardcore side, which I think led to the crowd losing interest in certain matches, which we'll get onto what happened in that instance later on in more detail.
Yeah.
But I sort of felt that at the time, initially, I was like, oh my God, this is going to make night two really good. And it did. Night two was great.
Yeah.
But I felt that there's a couple that really would have benefited, one of which I think is Jake Fatu versus Solo Sikoa, really would have benefited to be on night one. I think it would have stood out a lot more on night one because it was a good match. But I think it would have stood out a lot more on night one than it did being there on night two. I think it would have been nice to have a few of those switches, you know, especially as well with night one being a lot of tag matches.
Yeah.
You know, again, switching one or two of those over would have been that, you know, and that only comes from really watching it. That is not a criticism necessarily I'd have going in, because usually I don't really care about match order or anything like that. Just from watching it, I felt that, you know, there was a lot of variety overall on both nights, but I felt that maybe it could have been better. Maybe some matches would have benefited being on different nights. But overall, really enjoyed the show. Really excited coming out of the show, which I know is the main aim of these big shows, is to wrap up a lot of stories, but really set up the future where you're going, okay, that storyline's done, but where are they going to go now? But rather than being in where are they going to go now, more in an excited manner of where they're going to go now. We had the big SummerSlam return, which seems to be a tradition. Which again we'll go on later because the internet blew up for good and bad reasons. So I think overall I really enjoyed it. I thought that, you know, my criticisms are very small of what was ultimately a great show.
I would agree with what you're saying there. I think my overall thoughts that night two was better than night one. I felt like if they had one or two of those matches from night two and night one, it would have been a bit more balanced. It certainly did sort of. I felt like it needed a bit more of that variety in the first night, and obviously having that cage match, or you know, maybe Becky and Lyra being in night one probably would have helped. I think especially Becky and Lyra, mainly because I think when you've got the Cody and Cena street fight, and then you've obviously got the Becky Lyra match, I think there was kind of a similarity there. So having them on separate nights would have helped, and maybe would have helped in terms of the crowd as well, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But yeah, I think overall, I think both nights finished on a high. I think the Punk Gunther match was great, and the way that ended, and obviously with the cash in with Seth, obviously that just sets up a lot of stories from there, and a lot of intrigue as to what happens next. And I think that the second night ending the way it did, in terms of Cody getting the title back, and I wasn't necessarily concerned about obviously Brock coming back in terms of like storyline wise, because again it's Brock Lesnar. We all kind of know what the gist of that's going to be, and we'll obviously speak about him in a little bit. But obviously this being the sort of taking in the grandeur of the moment of it being Cena's final SummerSlam match is being sort of a return to form, I guess, with that match and what it was kind of my main highlight, really, in terms of like seeing Cena be able to pull off one last big epic match with Cody and giving them the match that deserved, really, in terms of both the superstars, the rivalry they had. It's just a shame to me that we couldn't get that when he was heel. That we couldn't get that he had to go back to being a babyface, and obviously we kind of probably know the reasons now why that's happening. And I think it was probably hinted at quite a lot in his promo as to why it happened. But yeah, I think overall it was a great show. I think I definitely preferred night 2 to night 1, but I think with maybe a bit of rejigging it would have probably balanced out a little bit better. But again, that doesn't mean to say I didn't enjoy night 1 at all, because I did. So, with that being said, first part we'll tick off, obviously giving our overall thoughts on it. What was your favourite match of the 2-night show out of the 12 matches I think it was overall?
It's really hard. Really, really difficult. I would say, because I will give what I think is the answer, and then I'll give... Yeah, the answer is Cody versus John Cena. Everything about that match was everything we wanted, everything we needed, from start to finish. A lot of people have compared the ending to the "Sorry I Love You" moment, and I think that was our "Sorry I Love You" moment of Cena's run. I think that we all... I sort of tweeted it as well. I think I was like, the whole reason they turned him babyface, or sort of this maybe not babyface, into the final one, was so he could go into his final championship match as John Cena, as the John Cena we all know and love. So then when people rewatch that last match, it's the John Cena we all know and love as his final ever title match, his final ever match as champion. And we just got it. We got it all. We got the hints of heelishness from Cody without actually turning heel, despite the fact that a lot of people, including myself, kind of thought that might have happened. I really thought that we were going to get something. I wasn't sure what, but I really thought we were going to get something. Instead, I'm actually really happy we just got a bog standard singles match, because that felt like the biggest apology for Mania I've ever seen. Of, we know we could have done better there, we didn't. Here is the match that we wanted to put on. And I love everything about it. I just think that it was exactly what it needed to be. In terms of my little match of the weekend, the one I'm probably going to speak about most is the TLC match. Now, if you had told me a TLC match with 12 people would work, I would have called you absolutely mad. If you had told me that a TLC match with an extra 4 people getting involved, on top of the 12, making it 16 people, would have worked, I would have called you mad. And yet it was the best thing I've seen. It was so good. Not only does it prove that the tag team division needs to be highlighted a hell of a lot more than it is, not only does it prove that TLC matches are absolutely goated,
Yeah.
it proves that they have depth, that all these characters, all these people are, you've got future main event stars in there. You can tell that. You can tell that by watching it. But it gives them a moment to flourish. It gave Candice LeRae one of the best spots I have seen, one of the most dangerous spots I've seen. And it was just brilliant. And I really hope they lean into that and go, wait a minute, let's give Candice LeRae, even if it's just a feud with Julia or something down the line, you know, where she gets a real highlighted moment on screen as a thank you. I don't care about her winning the title. I care about her being shown on TV, and I really hope they give her plaudits for that. But just everything about it, I think also having the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys at ringside just really helped. You know that this was going to be special, and it really was special. I felt that it honestly stole the show in so many ways. The fact that it was what people were talking about on Twitter the next day, you know, coming out of that show, out of night 2, people were talking obviously about the main event, about the return, and then everything else was the TLC match.
Yeah,
that's how good that TLC match was.
Yeah,
and I just think that it was. When I speak about everything it needed to be, this was more. This was more than I ever expected. I expected this to be an absolute mess. And I wasn't sure whether it'd be a mess in a good way or a mess in a bad way. This wasn't even a mess. This was actually a brilliantly well put together match.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it. I really don't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Again, I think in terms of like the overall card, I think it was definitely the one I pegged as being the funnest match to watch, or it was going to be the funnest match to watch. I thought we were going to see some absolutely crazy stuff, and we did. Plenty by the bucketful, really. But yeah, I think that's definitely top 3 for me in terms of the what I would maybe class as the best match. I think the most unexpected, maybe in terms of being up there, I would definitely put that up there as in surprise of the night, maybe. But in terms of my favorite match, I kind of I've toyed with either of the main events for obviously the different reasons, but I think I'm going for Cody and Cena because it's the fact that I wasn't sure going in we were going to get that out of Cena again. I knew Cody obviously could more than play up to the part and play up to what they needed for that main event, but really a lot of it had to come from Cena as well. Yeah. And him giving us that last hurrah, I know he's still got like 11, 10 dates left or whatever, and we may well get more out of him before the end of the year. But that certainly feels like if say for example he couldn't do the last 10 dates or whatever, and that was his last match, I think that would have been a perfect send off. Yeah. And maybe we'll get something like that when we get to December and it's the Saturday night's main event. If that is what ends up being his last match, then I think this very well could be the highlight of his entire year. Yeah. And I think that's why I've gone for it. I wasn't necessarily, and this kind of feels a bit like I'm writing it off as just being for the moment, but it felt like when I was sitting back and reviewing both matches, I loved the Gunther Punk story. I didn't necessarily love the action per se. I love the story that they were telling. Yeah. And in terms of Punk, every time he got a bit of momentum, Gunther was just slapping it down and just like putting him back in his place. And he's like, you're keeping hands length away from getting anywhere near a win here. Yeah. And then obviously it turned on a dime like it usually does in those sorts of stories. But I think that for me, the match gets complemented by what happened afterwards. Yes. And obviously with the cash in. So I think that's why I kind of went with the Cena Cody, is because overall I think the match top to bottom worked perfectly. Yeah. And as a match on its own, I think it'll stand. Whilst I think if you take the cash in out, the match on itself will be great, but I don't think it'll stand up as much as the other one.
No, I do agree, and what I love about the fact that those were your top 2 matches is this is how it should be. Yeah, you know, at the Manias and now the SummerSlams, night 1 and night 2's main events should be the top 2 matches on over the course of the weekend, and we got that. Yeah, like they warranted their main event slot.
Right.
It wasn't main event slots because of moments. It wasn't although kind of was, but it wasn't main event slots because of moments. It wasn't main event slots because of politics. This was 2 matches that deserved the main events because they were the 2 best matches over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, that's just awesome to me. I just absolutely love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, after Mania, we've questioned it every time we've spoke about a PLE and we've spoke about events that have happened in WWE. Everything has kind of gone back to that moment of Travis Scott coming down the ramp, and it just everyone kind of being a bit perplexed as to what's going on. I know there's been reports, obviously, that there's maybe been a bit falling out with him in WWE, and maybe that's why things have changed in the past couple of months. And I think that maybe why there was a bit of a hint of that with Cena's promo.
Yeah.
There was a couple of little cute things he put in there, and I think that everyone just went, okay, maybe that's what he's hinting at. Or maybe he's just putting that in there because he knows what's being said on the internet, and he's just making people question it further. So yeah, I think both main events were great. Again, we've said overall, I think the show was great, and it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. But yeah, of course, let's go back into this Cena discussion a little bit.
Yeah,
in terms of it being his final SummerSlam, do you think this appearance exceeded expectations for Cena, or do you think this kind of hit the heights that you thought it would hit with it being his last one?
I didn't think it would hit this height. I knew they had it in them. I knew, when Cena said he was coming back for his final run, we saw what he did in the Rumble. I saw what he did in the Chamber, and I was like, he's still got it. He wouldn't have come. He would have, if he didn't think he could do a full-time run of match after match after match, I don't think he would have done. I think he would have just announced, I've got one last match in me. This is it.
Yeah.
But the fact that he had a run says to me, I was like, oh, he's confident he can pull out multiple good matches in a short space of time, which said to me that he's been, fighting, he's been training a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, okay, I was fully on board with it. I was like, okay, I believe he can. But somehow it still exceeded it. I knew they were going to pull something out the bag, and I still didn't think it was going to be this good.
Yeah.
That's how good this match was.
Yeah.
This is a match I will go back and watch. Cena's had a lot of good matches on this road. Cody's had a lot of good matches, but there's very few. And it is, to me as a wrestling fan, I'm not, and this is in general with films, TV shows, very rare I go back and watch something. So for me, I will go back and rewatch this. Like, that is just something I will do. Yeah. And yeah, it just exceeded everything.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think that was the big question going into the weekend was, could it match any expectations? Are they going to be able to sort of make up for what Mania ended up being? And I think they did that and then some. I am glad for Cena, personally, that he's getting a match that's worthy of this being his final run.
Yeah.
And whether this ends up being it, we'll have to wait and see, because obviously, like I said before, he's still got 10 days left, or 10 dates left, and we'll see if that can be exceeded. My gut is that it won't be, but we don't know who his dance partners are. He could have some really, really big names come out and have a real greatest hits tour now in these last 10 dates, and we'll have to wait and see if that is the case. So, we've obviously talked about the Cody Cena match, and obviously our thoughts on that. Let's go into what happened afterwards. And again, the big SummerSlam return, like you said, it kind of is become a yearly thing now that someone's got to come back. Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate himself, has returned to a pretty big reaction in the arena.
Yes,
which I think whenever you hear that music, if you're live in the arena, it was always going to be.
Yeah. Doesn't matter who. I think it doesn't matter what we'll go on to in a moment, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter anything behind the person. When there's a surprise return, you're naturally going to go, what? And even if your reaction is, what? You're making noise.
Yeah.
And what you hear on screen is noise.
Yeah.
So you'll naturally have people cheering. You'll have people being like, "What?" And because you're making that noise, that's going to generate the pop and the buzz that we ended up seeing.
Yeah, 100%. Now, throw that to the reaction of the internet, and it's fair to say it's been mixed.
Yes.
For obvious reasons, not going to go into the gritty, nitty details of it all, but of course there are allegations out there about Brock and him being named in the Vince McMahon lawsuit and the allegations against him. Of course, he hasn't been proven guilty of anything, so again, this is by no means us saying that he's guilty or anything like that.
No.
But the allegations are out there, so that's why there's controversy attached to this return.
Yes.
In terms of my overall feeling on it, I kind of feel like, well, I don't kind of feel when he came out, my reaction was of what the hell are we doing? Like, why is he here? I get that it's probably part of the Cena's final tour greatest hits, probably back catalogue that he might hit over the next few weeks or months. But that being said, with the allegations out there and him not necessarily having been proved not guilty yet, I feel like it's kind of a bit of a rub in the face to maybe the people that are maybe taking this further with Brock and Vince and you know, all those people. And again, that's not me saying that Brock's guilty or not guilty, but I feel like I'm hoping that WWE have either seen some form of evidence or have something in the know that we don't know about that essentially proves Brock's not guilty of something. And maybe that's why he's back. And I just hope that that is the case, and we're not going to have more Vince McMahon scenarios where he comes back or he doesn't come back, but then he comes back and then he's gone again.
Yeah.
And it kind of mucks things up because, one, there's the element, the main element of it being of obviously the people who've suffered and are bringing up this court case against WWE and Vince McMahon and people and obviously everyone involved. I think that there's a danger that if we're just allowing people to come back in any scenario, big, small, or anything in between, I think it creates a dangerous precedent that people can just come back. And I'd rather people stay away and then come back once we know the full detail and everything's A-okay. And, you know, I'm by no means saying that Brock's done anything wrong, because, again, innocent until proven guilty is very much the mantra I live by, and I would never assume anything on Brock's side of things, or anyone's side of things, really, until it's proven. But I just think, yes, it's a big thing to have him back, and there will be people out there that'll be happy to see him back, and I'm not necessarily unhappy or happy to see him back. I've never been Brock's biggest fan, but I've never been his biggest hater. I've kind of been, typically, as I tend to be, in the middle with a lot of people. So him being back doesn't really do anything for me. I know it will do for certain people, but I think in the circumstances surrounding it, I'm kind of a bit like, okay, how are they doing the right thing here? Because I questioned not necessarily the morality of it, but I question whether it's the right move to bring someone back who has all of this, not circus isn't the right word, but all these circumstances going on around them that clearly are going to be playing out for a little while longer.
Yeah. What the hell was my first thoughts? You know, I was not long on holiday with my family, and I was watching it in the car on the way back, and my mouth just was like wide open, complete shock. And I wasn't sure whether, as you said, whether it was good shock, bad shock. I really wasn't sure. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is silly. Just, as you said, it sets a bad precedent. You know, and Brock is mentioned multiple times, not just once. You know, he's regularly mentioned in what is in that lawsuit and what is gone public in that lawsuit.
Yeah.
This is not someone that's just been mentioned once, not had one little allegation against him. This is rather large. If he's proven guilty of this, it's big. And I think it's just silly, as you said, to set that precedent of that might be okay. And I'm not saying that WWE are saying that, but that's how it's going to look to some people.
That's the perception that'll come out.
Yeah, and that's not a good look. As you said, it's part of the John Cena retirement tour. John Cena apparently asked for Brock to be part of his retirement tour, and obviously they've discussed this retirement tour over a year ago, this, that, and the other. It's come out that they caught wind a few weeks ago that legal would have cleared him. So I think that this wasn't 100% planned on the John Cena retirement tour. I think this is one there. They've gone, Brock's available if you want him, and Cena's gone, yes. Type of deal. So initially my reaction is, what's going on? That's in the general perception ordeal, right? Known to my wrestling head, what the hell is then also my response? Because WWE don't need him right now. And that's the cold-hearted, and I enjoy Brock. I enjoyed Brock Lesnar as a character. I've really enjoyed in wrestling. The issue I have is that they don't need him right now. This is not what they need. There's rumors that this might just be a 1-year thing, and almost like, let's get all the dream matches of Brock Lesnar out of the way, and then he retires next year at SummerSlam in his hometown. That is a perceived belief as well, which I can see. I could see that being the case. I very much believe that Gunther versus Brock Lesnar is a shoo-in now for WrestleMania. I think that is a guaranteed matchup along the road. It's a very easy stopgap for people like Jacob Fatu. Maybe Obafemi, when you bring him up to the main roster, could be his final opponent type of deal where you pass on some sort of torch. But I just don't see him in WWE right now as a character. I just don't. He doesn't need to be in the main event scene at all. The main event scene is set. So therefore, you've got him in a lot of stopgap feuds, which then doesn't feel very Brock Lesnar-y, because Brock Lesnar has always gone for the title, and that's always been his motivation. So why would his motivation not be that anymore? Yeah. You could easily get to the Gunther match by them both eliminating each other in the Royal Rumble. That's very easy. Yeah. This Cena one's only going to be a short-term stopgap. You can very much feel that in the air, because Cena's not going to want to face someone multiple times. He hasn't yet, other than Cody. Yeah. And as we said, that was an apology. So, he's not once faced someone twice for good reason, because he wants to get these matches on the way. So let's say it's only once. Mm-hmm. Then where does Brock go from there? I really don't know. I really thought in the moment that he was staring at Cena and you saw Brock's face, and then it turned to the behind Brock where you could see the ramp, I genuinely thought that Seth Rollins' music was going to hit, and I genuinely thought he was going to become part of that faction, and they were going to mask him in that. Mm-hmm. That's genuinely what I thought they were going to do, because of the Paul Heyman links. I thought that, I know they've labeled the injury as Plan B, but I thought that Plan B could have also been Brock in that moment. And I was like, okay, there's your war game setup. Mm-hmm. Pretty easy. You have him destroy John Cena. John Cena ends up going away or being a part of another match. And then you have war games where John Cena and Brock are in it. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. But yeah, I feel like just in real life, I'm what the hell? I just don't get it. I don't get why. And then in terms of character-wise, other than John Cena wanted him on the retirement tour, I don't get it. I don't think WWE needs him right now.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, I did find that a very strange comment that Triple H, because I think it was the post show of SummerSlam, and Triple H was like, John wanted him back, and it was John's request, and this, that, and the other. And I'm kind of like, why would John Cena request that at the minute when he's in the middle of everything, when he's in the final tour? He's got Peacemaker coming out, he's got a load of projects out at the moment or coming up, and he's filming stuff for left, right, and center. And really, Cena's star power, as it were, outside of obviously his main run when he was in WWE week in, week out, hasn't been higher since he's gone into the acting realm. So it's like, does he need anything to really tarnish it with? And I can see him. I can see WWE going after him, and then them telling Cena he's available, and Cena just going, yeah, sure, we'll do it. I don't see Cena going for that necessarily, as in him sitting down thinking about it and saying, I want to face Brock again. I don't know if I 100% believe that. And I know outlets have reported that it was more of a WWE decision than it was a John decision. But, like, they kind of backtracked on it in Raw a little bit, because Michael Cole was like, we sat down and talked with Triple H and Nick Khan, and they were like, we think Brock should come back now. So that's kind of changing the language of what Triple H said, that it was a John thing to it's a WWE thing. I don't know if maybe John's gone, I didn't make that call. You made this call. Let's backtrack this straight away, please, before it gets too much for what it needs to be. Yeah. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, of course, what happens. Again, if anything comes out of the lawsuit, I'm sure we'll all hear about it. And if Brock's in the right or in the wrong, we'll find out. And I'm sure the actions will happen. But listening to Sean Ross Sapp, he made the point that, you know, sponsors left or threatened to leave over the Vince McMahon lawsuit. And that's ultimately why Vince got the chop. If sponsors come in again, I think Brock Lesnar will be gone if they think there is something wrong here. So, and I'm sure that's what WWE will have done. They'll have put the feelers out to the sponsors to say, if we have this guy on the show, are you guys going to be okay with this? Because if they said no, I don't think he's anywhere near it. But we'll wait and see if anything develops on that one. So from one controversial thing to maybe a nitty-picky thing that I'm going to point out here, the Becky Lyra match. Yeah. I thought overall was a great match. A couple of bits in there which could have gone a little bit smoother, I think, like when Becky was hand-tying Lyra's two wrists together. I think that could have done maybe in a better way, or in a way where maybe that Lyra's defenseless and couldn't actually get herself out of it, when instead of just lying there and sort of waiting for her hands to be tied. That's by the by. The crowd. The crowd really annoyed me during this match. Now, again, you've paid your ticket, and by all stretches of the imagination, you've paid a lot of money for your ticket at SummerSlam this year with the current prices of WWE tickets. So you can do whatever you like. But when the women are putting on a match like they were, and they were going through the physical exertion that they were of pretty much a street fight, that's what we were doing. Yeah. It was no holds barred. Everything was going, fire extinguishers getting used, going through tables, crowbars were in the mix at certain points. Everything was on the table, basically, including Becky Lynch and Lyra going through a few of them. I just thought the crowd was ridiculous and unacceptable. I feel like if that had been any other match, that would have been highlighted, and it would have been, a lot more people would have been talking about it. Yeah. Because again, I was watching it with a couple of the friends, obviously, that we associate with and watch wrestling with it from time to time. And I hadn't noticed it initially because I didn't have the volume up that high. I don't tend to, because I don't like the commentary sort of just talking over it. I like to sort of just focus on the match itself. And then when a friend pointed it out, I turned it up a bit, and I was, what are they doing? And I couldn't figure out if it was like I know there was a infamous incident between, I think it was Orton and Styles a few years back at Mania, when the lights were sort of shining in people's eyes, so they had to fix them or turn them off, basically, so people could see. I was like, is that what's happening? And then nothing's happening. And then when I looked at the Twitter reaction and what was going on around online, it was basically they were trying to do a Mexican wave around the whole arena and were booing it when it didn't make it all the way around. And I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, if this was between matches, or, you know, if it was like, say, like a really long match, or not even during a really long match, I don't think that's even an excuse of its own. But if it was like in break, or if there was an advert on, or someone was coming down the ramp, whatever, that's fine. But when you're in the middle of the match and it's like the middle of the presentation, I just think, what are we doing? Like, if that, and I said at the time, if that was a European crowd, or to be fair, any crowd in the world bar America, I feel like that wouldn't have been a thing. Like, the reaction would have been solely focused on the match, and that match should have got more props for what it did.
Yeah.
And what was going on between the two competitors. And I just feel it was such a shame that they missed out on probably, especially for Lyra, probably her biggest reactions that she's had since she's been on the main roster.
No, literally. And I think that, that it was a match between two great people. The really good story going into it, really hot crowds going into it. I don't know what happened with that crowd. I really don't. Now, the excuses you can use, and they are excuses because at the end of the day, nothing excuses what happened, is that this did come after the TLC match.
Yeah.
So that's point number one, and to which there was a lot of no DQ matches on night 2, and that comes under part of my criticism of maybe the order, is because when you've got a lot of hardcore matches around each other, no one cares anymore. Like, we've just seen a TLC match. In your back of your head, do you care if they go through another table? Not really, because you've already seen that 10 minutes ago. As I said, it's an excuse because they should be engaging in the match. Even if you don't react to the table spots as much because you've just had a bunch, there's still a lot to enjoy in this. The other excuse is, I think that they picked the wrong stipulation. I think it should have been like a submission match or something along those lines, something that involved mat wrestling.
Yeah.
Because that's been the whole story the whole time, is that Lyra out-wrestled Becky, but then in that triple threat match, Becky out-wrestled Lyra.
Yeah.
And that would have been really cool to have maybe a no DQ match, but more in the sense of there's no rope breaks, like type ordeal, and being less about the weapons, but way more about the fact that it doesn't matter if Becky holds the tights, anyone can hold the tights. It doesn't matter if about rope breaks, they don't count anymore. Type ordeal would have been a very, for me, a better stipulation type ordeal, but I understand why they did the match that they did. As you said, it was also very similar to the street fight sort of stipulation. So again, that's why it should have gone on night 1. Yeah. Again, they are excuses though. You can say those things, and ultimately, yes, as much as they are true, you should still be engaging in the wrestling that you are watching.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're watching matches that we've had to watch in the past with wrestlers that aren't so good or very much aren't polished.
Yeah.
These are two very polished, very good athletes. You mix Bailey in there and that whole storyline in there. There's so much to enjoy. I just don't know what went on. As you said, the other thing as well, PLEs, how many minutes do we skip when it comes to advert? When I'm watching live, I don't notice it as much because you're in the moment. But re-watching that show, the amount I skipped through to get to the matches and to get to the promo packages, you're looking at 5 minutes each time, sometimes 10. You have time to do your Mexican waves then.
Yeah.
Not during the thing that you've paid for.
Yeah.
You've paid to watch great wrestling. They're providing great wrestling. If it was a boring match, right? If it was a boring match that with wrestlers that aren't that great, for whatever reason, or just having an off day, or there's just spot after spot that just aren't clicking, it's a throwaway match on the card. Do you know what? Go ahead, do what you want, right? But when it's on a PLE in a really good storyline for the Intercontinental Championship, it's between two really good wrestlers, stop. I just don't get it, because I would have paid so much if I had the money to be in the position that those people were in. Who clearly don't care. And we're in an era now where that just shouldn't be happening. And it's especially annoying because we know how WWE work. We, even under the Triple H era, they listen to crowd reaction, unless it's Karrion Kross, but they listen to crowd reaction as a lot. And if they're not reacting to the women's mid card that they have really heavily invested in over the last few months, what are they going to do? They're just going to stop investing in it again. And I doubt they're going to do that, especially after Raw, with Nikki Bella now being involved.
Yeah.
But that could have easily happened. That could have easily been the test of, you've asked for it. You've asked for the mid-card titles. Here's the mid-card titles. Do you actually care about them? And all the fans have gone and done is say no, despite the fact that so many fans do care. It's incredibly frustrating. I hope we never see that again. Just because it's just I don't want to see it. I mean, you've got the infamous moment of Cesaro and Sheamus ripping up the beach balls when that happened in the past. There's a reason, right? There's a reason that was such a big deal, because that was the biggest middle finger to the crowd I've ever seen. And I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if I'd seen Lyra and Becky just put their middle fingers up at any point. Like, fine, you don't care, sure. Like, it's frustrating as a fan because it takes you out of the match as well. Because there was multiple points where I just stopped. You just naturally stop paying attention when the crowd aren't involved. And then it also affects commentary, because the commentary can't get as excited because they're not. Commentary go with the crowd. Very good commentators.
Everything feeds off the crowd.
Everything feeds off the crowd. The match feeds off the crowd. The commentators feed off the crowd. And if the crowd aren't in it, everyone's not in it, and it's such a shame.
100%. Okay, well, moving on from that and something a bit more positive, we'll go on to Cody. Of course, Cody getting the title back that he lost at Mania. The quarterback has resumed his position, as he said the other day. I guess, obviously, we spoke about the match at length. We don't need to necessarily go back into that or Cody's performance or anything like that. I've just kind of been thinking about, like, where does he go next? Like, what's next for Cody in terms of storyline, feud, things like that? And again, I've kind of sat and thought about it a little bit, and I get a little bit is up in the air now because I know there's a draft coming in the next few weeks. So I think that will shake things up. Maybe potentially why we've had the likes of LA Knight getting that early title shot against Seth last night. And there was a couple of run-ins as well, with Punk and Roman showing up at the end of that. But with Cody, I kind of was like, well, who could be his dance partners? Like, who could be next? And I think my choice in my head is if people stay where they are or people don't get changed too much. I think the guy I want to see him with next has kind of been teased a couple of times, and that's Drew McIntyre.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
I think that, yes, you could do maybe a Logan Paul feud, or you could do various other things. Maybe you go back to Randy and there's a bit of a meaner streak in Randy or whatever. But I just feel like it's Drew's moment now. Like, he's had a couple of feuds since Mania. Like, he had the Priest feud, which continued to like middle of June. He's had this little side feud with Jelly Roll and Orton with Logan Paul. And I just think that Drew's at the top of his game, and he's staying there despite not maybe being at the top of the card. And I feel like we've had a couple of teasers through the year in terms of, like, I'm watching out for you back at the very start of the year with everything that was going on. Everything else in terms of even just little teasers that Drew does on his social media. I feel like that's kind of the next big feud for Cody to get into before we sort of get into the Rumble Mania season, where he's probably going to be circling around maybe Punk or, maybe an up-and-comer that we're not considering right now. Or maybe there's an Orton match at Mania to be had, I don't know. Or maybe it's Drew at Mania, I don't know. But it just feels like this is the time for Drew, doesn't it?
I think it does. I think for me with Drew, I think now feels like the right time, because I feel like after he's just faced Cena, you need someone who is going to feel like a formidable threat to the title. I think Drew provides that. I also think that they've got Clash in Paris coming up, which is very close to the UK, which could also contribute. I just think that for me, I think, again, after that, they've got Crown Jewel, which, again, he'll be facing Seth at that. For the joint title or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Crown Jewel belt.
Yeah, the Crown Jewel championship stuff. But I think it's a good point, because sort of could reset Drew a little bit as well.
Yeah.
You know, you've got his little mini alliance with Logan Paul going on right now, so maybe that can lead to a Logan Paul match down the line. You know, there's loads of different things I think they can lean into.
Yeah.
Again, Logan Paul's not a bad shout. I know that I know that people are going to scoff at me at that, but he's proven himself in these sort of main event matches. Again, for a throwaway early feud, it's not a bad shout.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could maybe combine the two, maybe a triple threat, where Drew and Logan go into it thinking we're best buddies, we're going to be fine, and then Drew claymores him within the first 30 seconds of the match.
Yeah.
Or something, and you've got like this big moment of like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, and Drew's like, I don't care, I want the title. I just used you to get in the match type of deal. I think would be really cool. I think there's a lot multiple things they can do with them. I think that Logan and Drew winning at SummerSlam, there's a very good reason for that happening, and I think this might be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, as for Cody going beyond that, you know, when it comes to Mania, I think you're looking at Roman Reigns or you're looking at maybe Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if Punk's getting the title match at Mania, it's got to be against Seth. It makes almost no sense, for, especially after that cash-in, for it to be on Cody right now over the next year. So for me, I think the big matches at Mania next year is either Roman or it's Randy. I think that a lot of people are sort of forgetting about Randy in a way, despite the fact that he was just on there, but people are sort of forgetting that he is a big name on the roster. And they are holding off on that match for a really good reason. And I feel like maybe it's because it's their plan for Mania.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. I think, but I'm weirdly happy to see Cody with the title again. I wasn't expecting to feel that way, but I think that Cody's adding this edge to his character where he's willing to go a bit more heelish with his character. And I quite like that in the sense of, for once, for the first time, and this includes AEW, I fully believe that Cody could turn heel at some point. And that's the first time I felt like that, which then makes him way more compelling as a character going in this title reign, because this could be the tipping point for him.
Yeah.
And that would be really interesting to see. Yeah. I'm actually intrigued going forwards, but I do think this Drew Logan sort of move before the draft is the right move.
Yeah, I also like the idea of Drew as well, because I feel like Drew's gonna push the buttons of Cody more than anyone else. Like, you're talking about the heel turn and things like that, and yeah, I feel like, I mean, after Cena's turning heel, I feel like anyone can turn heel at any point, really. But I feel like if there's going to be a heel turn, it'll happen in the next few years. I don't think it's going to be like 10 years away. I don't think it's going to be like in the twilight of his career. It might be when he needs a bit of rejuvenation and maybe something a bit of a fresher take on things. But I think if you're really wanting to push that character in terms of to his limits, I know they kind of did it a little bit with the AJ stuff.
Yeah.
When he threatened to hit AJ with the stairs when AJ was handcuffed to the rope or whatever. If there's a guy that can take that and do more, other than obviously what you had with Kevin Owens, I think Drew's probably the guy to do that. I'm also not against the idea that maybe the title goes back and forth a little bit. Like, Drew does win it.
Yeah.
Like Drew does win it. Or maybe Cody does win, but Drew ends up winning the feud as a whole and gets the title off him at the end, and then Drew goes into next year, and then you've got Drew in a big spot against somebody. I'm not against that, because I disagree, I think, a little bit with the concept of what you're saying of it being Roman and Randy. I think the Mania match is Seth and Roman. I think they've been waiting so long for that to be the case. It's 10 years since the cash-in. They've done the cash-in again. It's going to be 10 years since that Mania when it should have been the Seth and Roman. I feel like it's kind of aligning for it to be that. It could well be something else, because again, who knows what happens between now and then. But I just feel like if we don't get that Seth Roman main event where it's just the two of them before they both pack up and go, I feel like we've missed a big opportunity there.
No, I do agree. I feel like I feel like with Seth and Roman, I feel like they are destined to do it at some point, and have that big Mania singles match that we all want them to have. I just think with the cash in on Punk, I just think I'm thinking of Mania in my head, and I'm just thinking that when it comes to Punk matches, if Punk isn't facing Seth for that title, and we're not getting the revenge, because I feel like it makes sense for him to get revenge, to get that title back and be the one to get it off of Seth. If Punk doesn't face Seth next year, it makes no sense for him to face Cody, because if he's going to go after either champion, it's going to be Seth because of what Seth's just done to him. And for Punk's character, it makes no sense to go for Cody. So then it has to be a non-title match. To which who? I just don't. As of right now, obviously we're miles away.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Roman, there's a couple of other matches you could do.
Yeah.
You know, you could do something again with the Usos maybe, or you could do something with Braun Breaker, the singles match that we all want. You know, we could have maybe another tag match, but I don't really want a tag match if we just had one at SummerSlam, but something to do with Bronson Reed. Maybe Bronson's the one that gets the singles match with Roman after he keeps doing it, getting more and more Shula Fowlers. I think there's more scope for Roman to have other matches that aren't title matches.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with Punk, I feel like the whole road now is get that moment, have that moment, and I do think the next year's the moment.
I don't. It's not that I disagree entirely. Like I fully can see that being the case. I just wonder if Roman and Seth has got to happen sooner rather than later. And I know Punk's on a limited time scale as well, but Roman has been talking more and more and more about the fact that his time is coming up after this contract. He doesn't know how long he's going to be staying on after that. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. But it's still, again, this is what SummerSlam's supposed to do. It's supposed to get you theorizing about what's coming next.
Yeah.
So, before we wrap up, I think there's one more thing we need to talk about. And we've touched upon it various times and said it a couple of times, even just in that last conversation. But what a cash-in that was. Unbelievable.
The Ruse of the century.
Like, I still can't get my head around how good that was. Because, again, I never, like, watching that Punk Gunther match, and the biggest compliment I can give it is I didn't think about Seth once. I wasn't thinking about Seth. I was just thinking about how the hell is Punk going to get out of this one. Yeah. And as soon as he lifted that belt above his head, as soon as he was standing up to do it, it went in my head, and I went, oh, no. And then his music hit, but then when he came out on crutches, I was like, oh, no. He's got us.
Yeah.
They've worked us, and he's actually injured. He's like, just hold on to it, I'll be back. Da, da, da. And then it's just when he stops after he's turned around.
By the way, would have been a brilliant end to a night one of Mania of, I've still got this, and when I'm ready, I'm coming for you. The clear indication of it's you I'm coming after would have been a great ending. Yeah. But it didn't end that.
it's the turning around, and then Paul's just holding the briefcase, and then it's that bit. Like, that bit, every time I've seen it, it's just the toss, and it's like, oh my God. And it's like, and then he turns around, stares, even though he's on like the opposite side of the stadium, staring into Punk's soul, taking off the Velcro and then tossing it aside. Like, oh my, it was just unbelievable, wasn't it? It was crazy.
It's one of my favourite cash-ins of all time. The Heist of the Century is one of my favourites. The Ruse of the Century is now also one of my favourites.
Yeah.
They fully worked us. They fully got us. All of the dirt sheets, everything. Now, don't get me wrong, some people did leak it, some people did theorise it, some people did say they didn't believe the injury. But what matters is the fact that 80% of us, there wasn't a moment where we were like, maybe, but none of us truly thought. Similar to the John Cena heel turn, right? It was something that was brought up, and everyone went, oh, maybe. Nah. was the general reaction, and that's exactly what the reaction was here. And the coming out on crutches, and the two people do not get enough credit for this moment being as good as it is, and that's Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. If you go and listen to the commentary, right, of that moment where they go, he's got until next June, like he's warning Punk this, he's warning Punk that, Punk, you better watch out, blah blah, like he's coming after you. The commentary sounds the fact that Seth is injured up until the point he tosses. So that moment, at no point does, and again, this is harkening back to Hulk Hogan's heel turn, where you have the commentary going, "Oh, who's he here for?" and it puts the seed of doubt in. At no point did they put the seed of doubt in. They were definitive. Yeah. He is injured. He's issuing a warning right now to everybody. To which then makes that moment so good. And again, if you watch it, not only does he toss him, he slowly straightens his back right before, and then goes for it. And then he does it on the beat drop of his song, because he's bloody brilliant like that. And that's the thing with Seth, is Seth gets wrestling better than I think I've seen anyone get wrestling. He knows how to work people. He knows how to create moments. He knows what works and what doesn't. And just everything about this made sense. The desperation of the cash-in, of just wailing on Punk with each and every time with the briefcase. Everything about it felt incredible. Like, there's just not a single moment in this didn't feel like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. They kept it very close to their chest. No one really knew what was going on. To the point that built hype for night 2, because everyone was like, they're as tight-lipped about night 2 as they are about night 1's ending type of it. And as you said, like, the injury added to it, whether the injury was the plan the whole time, whether he did actually get a little bit hurt in that match and they sort of have played it off, or whether that was the plan the whole time, I don't think we'll ever know, probably until the next WWE Unreal documentary. But I feel like we possibly could never know the case of that. And I love it, because it just means that they've worked as they've gone with a plan and they've executed it perfectly and created one of the best moments in wrestling. And the fact that in top 5 cash-ins of all time, Seth Rollins is going to be 2 of them is absolutely bonkers.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's obviously, we've all had our different visions and like scenarios that we've thrown up and how he could cash in. I don't think any of them could top that. No. Honestly, I don't think. I recency bias is obviously a thing, but I still think. I think in a year or 2 time, I still think this might be better than the first one. I just think it's just because with the first one, there was an expectancy, there was a hope that he would cash in. Whilst with this one, it was kind of like, who knows? And then it's that moment of him turning. It's just forever going to be the tossing of the crutches, and it's that moment the crowd goes, "Oh!" Like everyone knew what was about to happen. And it's, it was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, that's where we'll leave it, with a very much a high note on SummerSlam, as it deserves, really, with the quality of the show. As always, folks, let us know down in the comments what were your thoughts on SummerSlam. Give us your review in the comments. And as always, if you want to see more wrestling content, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and we'll see you on the next one, where, of course, we'll be chatting all things wrestling.